New digs, same ad read. This episode of Rec League Pros is brought to you by Anchor. We've reiterated it a couple times, but hey, you want to be like Howard Stern, like he is on Sirius XM radio, but you want to be less creepy. Get started with Anchor. You can create your own podcast that way. It's simple to use, easy navigation. You can use all the sound effects, music they have. You can edit right from there. You can look at all the analytics for each episode you put up, and you can start making money right away with zero minimum listenership. Super easy to use. It's a great place to download and also distribute your podcast. You want to distribute it onto Apple, Spotify, Google, Breaker, whatever podcasting platform you like to listen to podcasts on. Anchor can do that for you. So what you're going to do today is you're going to go to the Anchor app and download it, or you're going to go to anchor.fm and get started making your podcast today. Again, that's anchor.fm, or download the Anchor app and get started making your podcast today. Roll to the intro. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Rec League Pros with your boy Dan Longton. As you can see, some things look a little bit different than they normally do, and that's because, well, I've set up my quote-unquote podcast studio upstairs in my spare bedroom. I live alone now, so this space is going to be used for the podcast now, but I think it turned out pretty well. It's not fully done yet. I got all the furniture in, and obviously the equipment I had downstairs is up here. But I'm planning on getting a new camera for video that can record longer than 30 minutes. I have an old Canon T5i that I was using in college, and as much as I love the camera and it's a good startup camera, it's not going to get the job done for what I want to do for video purposes. So obviously getting that, and then on top of that too, right here is where the new logo will be. Well, it's not really the new logo, but we're going to have my logo right here in the middle for the studio setup, for intro, for the ad reads, and in the podcast itself once we start having guests in and I actually have that camera. But as usual, we're seeing some growth now on Instagram, a little bit on YouTube, but I'm starting to figure out how to get myself to hit a goal. I'd like to be able to get a couple followers a week and listeners on each of my platforms. So if you guys could and help me out a little bit here, like, subscribe, comment, download on whatever platform you like listening on. So if you like YouTube, subscribe, comment, turn on the bell notification, comment down below what you want to see. And I will do whatever it takes to get that into play for sure. And then on top of that as well too, if you're listening on Apple, on Spotify, on whatever podcasting platform you like, make sure to give it a download as well too. We're here for the marathon, not the sprint. And that's the goal here. I'm enjoying doing this, and I like seeing small inclines of changes, and I've been happy with the results so far, but want to challenge myself a little bit and get that road, at least for a following standpoint, on the Instagram to at least 100 followers in the next 2 months. So we're at 30 now, which is pretty funny to talk about, but we want to bring it up a little bit more. But anyways, getting into my next guest for episode 5, we have Cam Stuart. Cam is, again, another close friend from the Wareham Gatemen broadcast team that I got to know over time and known for a couple of years now, and he is a very, very talented broadcaster. When I saw him in Wareham, incredible composure, very laid back guy, hilarious, and just was amazing on the broadcast, whether it was play-by-play color. He did an incredible job, and I think that's in credit to the amount of work he puts in and how long he's been doing it for. He's been doing it since his freshman year of high school. Pretty incredible to think about. But he's an alumni from Baylor University, and he's currently living in Texas right now. He just took a new job for a small news station up in small town in Texas. He was originally working in Waco for another news station as one of the reporters, and he has a voice for on-air talent. He's incredible, and I could see this kid one way or another being on ESPN, being whoever it may be that you know what, he's gonna be the Ernie Johnson of the millennial era. I'm calling it right now. He's gonna be the Ernie Johnson of the millennial age. Maybe a little shorter than Ernie Johnson, but he's going to be up there for sure. But he's got a lot of things going for him, and he's taking steps in the right direction for it. And I'm pretty ecstatic for him. I think it's going to be great opportunities coming his way in the next couple of years. He's on a 2-year contract for this new job he just picked up. But it was a blast being on the podcast, or having him on the podcast, and talking a little bit about our time in Wareham and what it's like down in Texas right now, and his journey from high school to where he is right now professionally. But without further ado, guys, episode 5, Cam Stuart, Rec League Pros podcast. Let's get right into it. Cut to the video. Holy shit! It's been a while, huh?
It has been a minute.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah. I can't.
Do I get headphones in? Do you recommend headphones? I wasn't even thinking that.
Honestly, it's up to you.
You don't hear like a playback, do you?
I don't hear the playback from you, no. I've been given it the option. I think the only person that's done headphones so far is Ian, but he's kind of a professional at it. Yeah. So, but dude, holy shit, man.
It's been a while, dude.
I know, right? Crazy how time flies.
Honestly. I mean, looking back in preparation of this, thinking about our time in the Cape League makes me feel very old.
Oh my dude. So that was summer of 2018, right? Holy shit, 3 years? Wow. It's still crazy because when I had Ian on, it's crazy to think about like that group chat that we have with what is it, 6 of us, and I'm at least getting at least a message a day, and that I think is pretty freaking.
Yeah, it's still going strong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not even just the baseball either. Like it's just, I mean, when you look back on it, especially like you, me for sure, like we didn't talk a lot of baseball. Like,
oh God, no.
Guys being dudes, like that's because we knew so much in those 3 months. I probably knew more about the Cape Cod Baseball League than I knew about anything ever. Like I was more in touch with something as it was happening, and so I didn't want to talk about baseball all the time. I knew too much.
Oh yeah.
Doing the homework every night, I knew too much.
Well, yeah, especially because you were on the broadcast side, so it was like, for me, it was like, you know what? Just bring your camera, show up, edit, you're good to go. For like you, JD, Enrique, Mary, even too. Like you guys had to at least put in a good couple hours of effort.
Those first couple weeks when you were facing a team for the first time was brutal. I mean, because it was every player you had to have a note card on, and you were just like digging just to get a little nugget you can throw out there. Like,
right.
That's what it was all about. And I mean, we'd be up all night. After the first couple of weeks when we had seen everyone, like it slowed down, the players changed a little bit, but not enough that you're really bogged down into it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another thing, you'd play YD for the first time and you have all this stuff lined out, and all of a sudden there's a guy who's in the starting lineup who was not on the roster last night, and you're like,
right.
Well, shit. Like that didn't happen a ton, but yeah, first time through the order, it was a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you really had to do the research. Once you get a couple of weeks in, you kind of get a sense of the players and so on. But
Yeah.
like even for Trent, man, like figuring out the broadcast to start out, like he's like bouncing off the walls, and I mean that wasn't just a 1 or 2 week period. That was all season long.
That was
I've never seen a kid put so much exercise into his job other than Trevor.
I swear, man. I've never seen a sleep schedule like his. And I didn't even live with him, but JD and Enrique did. They would say like Trevor was up to like 4 or 5 in the morning, just like putting together the highlights and get everything ready for the next day. It would like sleep till 1 p.m. and then go to the field. Like it was ridiculous. I mean, we got home late. Don't get me wrong. Like it was a night side job, but yeah, that man. And our broadcast got really good in terms of when we would do the road games. He was working all season long, like trying to get that software going to where like you could really follow the game. Like you would tune in and you would know like runners on base, outs, the count, and that's on an audio only broadcast too.
Yeah.
So I mean, we had some really good and really popular broadcasts as that season went on. So
oh yeah,
there. I mean, it definitely the fruits of his labor really showed.
I think if you look at it from a production standpoint, because we were pretty blessed to have Wareham TV, so we had access to a TV station to be able to have the equipment to do a lot of the stuff that other teams couldn't do. It was older equipment, so the video quality wasn't like this overly beautiful look.
No one's was.
But if you looked at the production, the time, the editing, the shot itself, cuts, Trevor did a great job.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone did a real good job. And that was the thing. Everyone, once we kind of got the ball rolling a little bit and everyone got comfortable with each other, it made it 10 times easier. And I think that's why I really liked the group we were with, because it wasn't like, I mean, we liked talking sports, don't get me wrong, but it was just like, we're here for a whole summer. We get here at 12 o'clock. We don't leave till maybe at times like 9:30, 10 o'clock. Don't waste your time like just talking about baseball the whole time. Just be a degenerate once in a while,
And we did. We had some degenerate moments.
I have one in my mind that I'm not going to share, and I think you know what I'm talking about.
I have a couple. I don't want to like overly censor myself on this podcast, but there are a couple that I would have brought up, but I probably shouldn't and probably won't.
Now,
but some of the best ones are for sure. I don't think they're safe for this.
Now, the story I'm talking about, and I'm still, again, not bringing it up, but it's not that I don't care about the story, because I think it's a great story on my behalf. However, there are some people that were there that I don't think, if I had been talking about the story, they would be too overly thrilled with me bringing it up because of who was in presence. But
probably
talk about all-time low. That was the lowest I've ever been.
Oh man, that was fun.
Oh yeah, great times. Yeah.
Fuck these guys.
Yeah.
We are gonna leave you in the dark, but it was fun. Trust me.
Yeah. So I want to get started. Like, I want to roll right into probably like how you got yourself into the Wareham internship process, because you did it for 2 years. You did it one as like the field team or whatever.
Yeah, like game day stuff.
Yeah. And then, the next year you were a broadcaster. So how did that first year work out for you?
Yeah, so even going before that, I've been going to Wareham games for years. Not like I wasn't one of those absolute regulars. It wasn't like Norm at Cheers or Carl at the Gatemen games. But like I would go every once in a while because that was the closest Cape League team to me, and we had a Cape house when I was a kid. My grandparents did, And so that was in kind of Barnstable area. So we would go to YD and Hyannis a lot, actually a lot more than Wareham. But anyway, so yeah, so I knew I wanted to get into the Cape League. I love the Cape League. And yeah, so sophomore year going into the 2017 season, I was just too late on the train, and there was none of the media jobs opening. I had really only just started college broadcasting a couple months before, so I didn't really have a tape or anything to send them either. So it was like, well, I'll do the game day thing. I live close enough that I could just go. It's not like I needed to find a place to live, and see where it gets me, kind of thing. And game day is a lot more lax. You don't even have to really be there every game, and it's unpaid, and you're really just doing like you're handing out the roster sheets, you're taking donations, your security for the bathroom, which I was a lot of the time. That's not the funnest job at the ballpark.
No.
And so Paula, who ran all the interns, but basically was just the game day people and marketing people, she would be like, well, if there's anything else you want to do, kind of let me know. And so I had told her pretty early on, I was like, hey, I do broadcasting. That's what I want to do. Is there any way I could, like shadow the broadcasters, see what they do, see what it's going to take? And so they did. They let me do that for a game, and I just sat up in the booth with them. Not the most comfortable, as you'll remember, very small press box. And that's kind of how it got started. And it was just Paula basically saying, like, are you like really interested in this? You said you do this at school and everything. And like, let's go tell Andy Lang, the general manager of Yours, Mine, Our Wareham Gatemen, and certified mystery man, Andy Lang. So that's kind of how it got started. And
That's kind of an understatement, but yeah, continue.
Yeah. So actually, this leads into an Andy story, because Paula had told him on my behalf that that I had wanted to do it, and so I'm out there one time handing out the scorecards or the rosters at the gate, and Andy comes by, and he's like, "You're Cam. You're the one who wants to broadcast for us." And first time I've ever talked to him, and I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And he's like, "All right, come with me." And we're walking. He's walking ahead of me. Doesn't want to be side by side. Not looking back at me, anything like that. And we walk to this part of Spillane Field where it's on the first base side. It's just fence. There's no bleachers behind you. They're next to you. So no one hangs out down there because you can't really see down right field. You can barely see the home plate. And it's between the field and the batting cages. And he brings me there. It's like fucking tough. It's like setting up a meeting with Michael Corleone. Like, he's just like, no one can see us, like anything like that. It's like a mob movie. And he's looking at the game, but talking to me next to him. And he's not making any eye contact with me. And he, is asking, you done this before, this and that. And I'm like, do I look at you or what? And so I'm telling him, yeah. And he's like, well, all right, send me your reel. And that's for those who are not in the media industry, that's very common. Everyone should have one, no matter what you're doing in the media. And it's just your collection of your greatest hits put together. And I didn't have that. I just had like actual game tapes of entire baseball games I had done at Baylor. And so I just sent those off to him. And I cannot confirm this, but the story goes he was listening to them before a game in the press box, because that's where we had a laptop. And he was, I think the word Paula used was freaking out, but like angry, as in saying, why didn't we have this kid this year? Like, he's better than the guys we have now. Now, I can't confirm that, but does it feed my ego? For sure. And he's like, what the fuck this, fuck that. Like, why didn't we have him this year? This is bullshit. We need him on next year. Pencil him in next year. And so I was like, fuck. So I still had to apply and everything, because like you had talked about with Ian, I mean, it's really competitive. There are, great writers and broadcasters coming from all over the country. So I still needed to apply, but he knew me, and I knew when to apply this time. And so I was kind of living on easy street that fall. It was still a couple months before they let me know that I had gotten it. But so that's kind of how I got started with it. So I was very lucky in that sense that I had paid my dues in 17. It wasn't fun doing game day stuff, but I loved being at the games. So, but yeah, Andy Lang, man, we had a game that year, a playoff game against Bourne, and we were down like 5-1 or something, facing elimination, and we made this great comeback. And you guys had talked about him being like Billy Bean, like keeps very hands off. I don't think he really talked to us throughout that summer we were broadcasting, but he was like so stressed out about this game, and Gatemen were coming back, that he is in the high school weight room next to the
about this, yeah.
stadium, and just bumping out, like just doing a full workout. And he would come out like every 10 minutes, he'd come out like in between sets or something to see the score of the game and then go right back in. Like you could hear him, the music was blasting, and it was like this guy could not handle being out there. And he's good dude. Just I don't know anything about him. He's eats, sleeps, breathes baseball for sure.
Yeah, I didn't have a relationship with him like you and Ian did, probably some of the other broadcasters. I, in my one summer there, had 2 conversations with him. My first day there, and my last day there when we won the Cape Title. And it was emailing back and forth of like, oh, hey, are you coming? Are you not coming? And I was like, well, I got to find a place to stay. Only the broadcast team, because technically my position as an intern wasn't technically the broadcast team. However, I had to go to every home and away game and help the broadcast team out, but it was an unpaid internship. So it was so there was that, and I had to like scramble to find a place. I was living in Providence, which that's an hour drive just to get to Wareham. Yeah. And then, yeah, it was just like, talk about mystery, man, dude. Like the amount of time.
Which for the most part, I don't know about you, but I enjoyed that he was like really hands off. He kind of let us just run the show.
Oh yeah.
And there was an incident where, well, laptop aside, that was a different incident, but there was a part of the team that was not pulling their weight, and Andy did have to talk to us then, but he was very democratic. I remember he had called everyone but that problem person and said, like, hey, like, what's the deal here? And basically was like, do I need to just let this kid go? Like, do I just need to go? Is he like, if he's fucking up what you guys are doing, like, I will send him home. And so, like, he stuck up for us, and at the end of the season, he was like, you guys did a great job all season. But I don't know but I just felt like we had during the season, because he didn't say anything to us.
Well, it was because we didn't need to be babysat. That was the thing. We went in and we did what we were supposed to do. You know, I mean, did we screw around a little bit and shoot shit? Oh yeah, absolutely. yeah. The amount of time you had in between games and like, pre and post game is like, yeah, of course you're gonna like freaking.
I mean, we screwed around on the broadcast, dude. I mean, you're doing the same thing. That was 7 days a week for 2 months. Like, there's only so much you could say about the baseball going on. Like, we had fun with it, man. We really did. Even in the broadcast, but definitely outside of the games, we made everything as fun as we could, I think.
Yeah, the one person in that group that I know who you're talking about, that one set me off a lot too, in a sense of like, we had a relationship beforehand, and it was almost like, because he was screwing things up, it was kind of a reflection on me as well too, due to the relationship we had, which was not the case at all.
Right.
I
think we found that pretty quickly.
Yeah, but yeah.
Also, it was, because I think the rest of us were mature enough that we saw, like, it was leaving Trevor out to dry completely.
Oh yeah.
And so what was supposed to be a 2-man job fell on one person who was the youngest one out of us because Javik wasn't working with us. And,
Right.
I mean, he just finished his freshman year of college. So this kid's away from home for the first time, and now he's got everything on his shoulders. So it kind of pissed off everyone in that, like, you know, there was only so much someone like me or Henrique or JD could do to help Trev because we just didn't know what like the stuff was. You know, I was no training to help him at all. Like I wish I could have more, you know, but and so that's what I think that's what pissed us off is it was just someone not pulling their weight.
Oh yeah, which was why that made me mad. Which is why it was more than like that's why I helped shoot pregame. That's why I helped him shoot postgame.
Yeah, so I was gonna say a lot went on you as well after that because that was kind of all his area.
Right. Not nearly to the extent that Trevor had, but I mean, I took on more responsibility than I originally had envisioned myself doing. But that was okay though, because I actually liked doing that stuff because I would just be an absolute idiot behind the camera, and you guys, I'd say something stupid, and you guys would just start laughing.
We had some fun side projects, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Most of them did not see the light of day, but we had some funny side projects. The hot dogs.
Yeah, the hot dog reviews.
The hot dog review.
I liked Gate Takes. I wish I would have had more time to do it. It's just hard because I wanted to do a multi-camera interview, and B-roll wise, I mean, to start out that first episode, I didn't have a whole lot of stuff. And even when I think you did the interview with Fioli, you and Ian, because Ian was like, oh, hey, I'll be kind of like the main host, and then kind of rotate out the broadcasters and whoever wanted to do it. So I think Henrique did the first episode, and it was with Vaughn and Stott. And then when we did Fioli, you would come in. And I don't know what happened to that episode when it got, because I uploaded it, and I don't know if it just got taken down or something, but I was just like, I didn't know what happened to it. And the whole time Ian's like, oh, hey, where's that episode? It's like, I don't know what to tell you. I put it up, and it had just gone. I don't know if someone just took it down by accident or what happened. But the best one I had was I did an end of the year playoff run. That's my best video I think I've ever uploaded ever. And I always look at the views too. It's at like 2,500 views.
Yeah, I pop in and watch that from like every couple months. Mm-hmm. I will just like long for the Gatemen, and I will just watch that video, and just get happy again.
Oh yeah, well I was telling Ian this on the episode he had, but I still have my championship ring.
You mean
literally
this?
Oh yeah, I could just go across the room to go get mine right now. I like rushed in to get this set up. Oh yeah.
It's gonna be tough to get off, but.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I almost got it stuck on my finger when I was wearing it on the episode with Ian. I was like trying to like pull it off, and I realized I have to put it on like my pinky finger. Got sausage fingers now, but
love this thing.
Yeah, I had that as like my centerpiece on my mantle. It's like
I used to wear this to like parties senior year after we had won it, just like it was obviously like tongue in cheek a little bit, like it was meant to be funny, like hey ladies, I remember the Cape League champ, and it didn't work a ton, but I was always so worried I was gonna like somehow break it or chip it, like just being shit faced.
Oh yeah,
didn't happen. It survived. It's gonna be tough to get off, like I said, but
yeah. Well, what was it? My first.
It's just like my senior class ring, basically.
Yeah, my first weekend back to school. It was literally right after we had finished the season.
Yeah. And
I move in, and we usually have that first like night or two for like the school to just get party and get after it.
Like nothing's going on.
Yeah, I have all my Wareham Gatemen gear on, and I see Zach Hart and all the baseball guys. First of all, With the exception of Z Hart, yeah. With the exception of Z Hart, 75% of those guys on that team, fucking assholes. I don't care. I'll say this on record right now. 75% of the men's baseball team, those guys, fucking assholes. I don't care what anyone says. But I'm walking up, seeing Z Hart, and like he acknowledges me. He's like, "Oh, dude, what's up, man?" And the rest of the baseball team is like, they're looking at each other like, who the fuck is this guy? Who does he think he is? And I wish I had my ring at the time, because I got mine in December, and I would have just been flashing it. It's like, oh,
who am I, bitch? Who are you?
Yeah,
who are you?
Oh, you got a conference championship ring from the Northeast 10, some Division II conference. Talk about low. I got a Cape Cod League title. Not even Frank Thomas doesn't even have this shit, bud. So, but yeah.
Me and Indy Vaughn.
But yeah, 75% of the Pierce men's baseball team is saying, yeah, you guys are assholes. Like, go fuck yourselves. But anyways, we're going uncensored a little bit here. But talk to me a little bit about...
that's how I roll.
Oh, yeah. That's why I'm going off the cuff right now, bro. Talk to me a little bit about your kind of like school career, because you went to Baylor, moved from Mass all the way down to Texas. First of all, what was the culture shock like for you?
Oh man, I mean, big time. In a way, I'm still getting used to it, and it's 6 years later. But I tell people I had actually done a semester abroad right before the Gatemen in London, and the culture shock from Massachusetts to London was way less than Massachusetts to Texas. Like, it's just a whole nother world. And I had just grown up like loving the idea of Texas. My dad actually went to UT for a time, so I grew up like a Texas football fan. And so like I wanted to get far away from home, my little one-horse town, and this is about as far away as you could get in this country, just in terms of everything accounted for. And so I came down here. I did a journalism camp at TCU, actually, our big rivals, and I'd seen the other schools in Texas, and Baylor was just the one I liked the best. It was a really hot school at the time. The football team was great before that blew up. The president was basically a celebrity, Ken Starr, for all the wrong reasons. And like the campus was expanding, the city was expanding. Everyone knows Waco now, not because of Branch Davidians, but Chip and Joanna. Every middle-aged woman I know has asked me about Chip and Joanna. So anyway, so that's like where I wanted to be. Great decision, best decision I've ever made. But in terms of a culture shock, it's humongous. So I had grown up going to church. I wouldn't have called myself like a really religious guy. I didn't like going to church. But my dad used to bring me every week. And senior year of high school, I just like didn't really, wasn't really a believer anymore. Just wasn't part of my life. And that said, like Baylor is the biggest Baptist school in the world, and the rest of Texas is largely the same way. So that was the biggest thing, is like freshman year, we have to go to chapel twice a week, and we have to take a Christian scriptures and a Christian heritage class. And like everyone goes to church on Sunday, and it's just a little weird. And, I mean, plenty of kids whom I knew in college are either engaged or married or like having kids by now. And it's like nuts to me. So that's a huge thing. So that kind of revolves around everything. The whole like real Bible thumpers. The people are nicer. They walk slower. It's hot as fuck, man.
I can't even imagine.
It's not terrible today, but it is still 90. So, I mean, I guess though, all of the culture stuff comes from like the religious aspect. Like the people are nicer, which you think is be great, and it is. Like, I love having nicer people, but it's a lot different from what we grew up with. And like, kids didn't watch SpongeBob when they were kids because like their parents wouldn't let them because they thought it was not not a good influence or like shit like that. Like, I knew a bunch of people who never seen Harry Potter because it was wizards. And Baylor specifically, um, I had grown up very middle class in a very poor town, public school all throughout. We lived pretty frugally, and Baylor is the exact fucking opposite. Like, when I showed up here, I didn't even think I really realized it until I got here. I knew it was going to be preppy. It was a private school, very expensive to go to. Um, and I mean, but there are kids like driving Chargers and Challengers, like every other kid you knew, and like just stupid money. Kids who just didn't try in class because they didn't need the financial aid. They didn't need the scholarships like I did. It was just something I was so not used to. Like, you had a rich kid here or there in Rockland, but not like this. I mean, they all came from really wealthy families, and a lot of them came from private schools. And so that was a huge like fish out of water. Like, first semester, I was like, what am I doing here? Like, this is not it. Um, and so like I also wasn't really used to the workload either, which didn't help. So I almost flunked out for a semester actually. But so that was the huge thing, was the church and the money flow at Baylor big time. And so I was definitely not used to that.
Yeah, I think in of itself, like not just Texas, but I think the entire South is like that.
Yeah.
Period. My sister, the first couple of years of college, went to Coastal, go down there for a football game. Now, granted, it's not like a Baylor football game or anything like that,
Yeah.
but anything in the South, if it's a D1 school for football,
much different than we used to. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So you go down there, like the people we met, like this guy had a bus set up for tailgating where you had TVs. It was like a teal blue van. He had, they were fucking cooking up some barbecue before the football game. I'm getting hammered with fucking red cherry bourbon shots. I'm like, what is going on? Yeah, it's like a whole, and like, yeah, everyone. Yeah, everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like we had talked about. I mean, growing up, like college sports in the Northeast, it's a fucking joke, man. Like, the only ones that are legit are college hockey and college lacrosse in terms of like those programs are really good, but like, it's still niche. Like, people don't go to lacrosse games at Harvard, who usually has good teams, or even some of the smaller schools, and the bean pot teams get good crowds, but it's still, it's niche. And like we'd go to BC football games and basketball games growing up. It was a fucking joke, dude. Like unless they were playing Duke in basketball, or Clemson or Virginia Tech used to be good in football as well. When they would come up, that was a big deal, or Notre Dame. But like, that was just so much different. It really is like pro sport, I mean, we're still close enough to Dallas here in Waco that they talk about the Cowboys a lot. But I mean, a lot of the talk radio and stuff is about Baylor, which is not a big school in the grand scheme of things. And like, you go down to College Station where A&M is, that's all they have. And A&M's a massive school, like the second biggest in the country, I think. And so like, this is a humongous deal, which was the best culture shock because we were good at sports.
Yeah.
We're down at sports. Yeah.
Yeah. The religion was the other big thing that you brought up too. And it was like, yeah, everyone is like, I'm the same way as you, where it was like, we went to church. So I grew up Catholic.
Yeah.
And we went to church on Sundays up until maybe like, I was like 8 or 9 years old. So like, Maine is very interesting in the sense of like, you can get your first communion and your confirmation before the age of 10. It's like the 2-for-1 special in Maine.
I wouldn't get one.
Yeah, people are like dumbfounded by it. So it's like, it's funny because it's like, New Hampshire is like obviously not the same thing. Like Maine's like one of a kind when it comes to that. So when like my cousin who's like 6, 7 years older than me getting his confirmation, it's like baby cousin of my sister who's like freaking 7 at the time is like standing up for him. It's like, what are these two kids doing? It's hilarious. But like after that, it was like I didn't have time to go to church on Sundays. I was playing baseball or I was playing basketball or whatever. Yeah.
Like I was sleeping one off, dude.
Yeah. I was saying a prayer to the Lord before I was getting up, man.
I was making a deal with God, saying I'm never going to drink again. That was my church. And I literally had people would ask me, they'd be like, "Oh, when were you saved?" I was like, "Motherfucker, I'm lost. I'm 19 years old. The fuck are you talking about? I'm saved, bro."
When was I saved? No, I saved God, dude.
I was like, "The fuck, man!" I went to confirmation because I had to. Like 5, 6 years before, like, so it was weird, man, and like. There's definitely, and look, I mean, religion, if you're really religious, I don't really give a shit. You know what I mean? It's just not for me. Like, I'm probably not gonna be friends with you if you're like one of those really strict ones who like hates everyone that isn't you. But like, ran into plenty of girl that I was actually involved with or not, that was like, and guys too, were like, I'm saving myself. And I'm like, bro, I mean, it was like a competition in high school, like to who was gonna get busy first.
Like, gonna get this nut first, right?
Options, and they're like, I'm saving myself. I'm like, oof, man, like it was just, and again, like whatever, do what you want. It's just not something I was used to at all, and it's still that way. But like, I will say, going to weddings, your friends' weddings at this age is actually really fun.
Yeah, I'll get to that point too. So.
Yeah,
it's gonna be interesting. But the thing with like, so here's the thing with like New England as a whole, right? UConn is at the time, like growing up, was the biggest school for sports in a sense. Like BC was BC was a joke to me. Like, no one's going to BU games. Forget about UMaine. No one's driving all the way up to freaking Bangor or Orono, Maine to go watch a UMaine Black Bears football or hockey game. UNH had a good ice hockey team for a while, but really
they
like
good football, but they were Division II. So like,
well, no, their football team is D1.
Well, they're FCS, aren't they?
No, I don't think so.
They're FCS?
I'm pretty sure. Or they might be FCS. I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
I remember watching them play playoff games. They were because my gym teacher's son was on the team, so they definitely were back then. I obviously don't keep up with them now.
Well, what was the school? Wentz went to? Because they have like the small Division I like college football playoff.
North Dakota State.
And UNH used to be used to playing that all the time.
It's one AA. So it's Division I technically still, but they're the ones who play the full playoffs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so then you're probably right then. But like, I mean, like, it's kind of cool, like the amount of coaches that have come. Like Chip Kelly was like coach for UNH for a while.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But anyway, alluding to my point, like the biggest sport to watch was UConn women's and men's basketball. That was it.
Even still, it wasn't like a huge deal. I mean, I'm sure it was in the Hartford area. Like they were really, really good. Obviously the women are always really, really good. But like, it wasn't front page news of the Globe.
Yeah, now it's nowhere near what it used to be.
No, the men's program for sure has fallen off.
Yeah, and then like college sports in general, like we'd all rather go to a Sox or Celtics game.
Oh, for sure. And that was even like when we were young. BC had Matt Ryan and Luke Kuechly for football, and they had like Jeremy Dudley and Reggie Jackson for basketball. So they had like good team. Like they made the tournament. They had a good football team one year. They went up to number 2 in the country. But like again, no one cared. Like the same time BC was number 2 in the country, the Red Sox won the World Series in 2007, and the
Right.
Patriots were undefeated. Like no one gave a shit, and they never will. And I kind of feel bad for them in that sense. They never will. I mean, unless BC builds an Alabama program, that's the only time they'd have a chance to be somewhat relevant. And
it could if they had a coaching staff that was appealing. Yeah, like you know what I mean.
Even then, even if you get a good coach at BC, they're going somewhere bigger after 3 years.
Well, in a sense, if like but BC could also make a statement where they could, if they really wanted to, because you can't say they don't have the money to pay someone like they would, like a Nick Saban or something like that. Maybe not to the degree. If they got to a point where they made guys appealing, and then they were getting like these highly touted recruits. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to bring fans.
That's a big jump, though, to get those recruits. I mean, they'd rather go to an SEC school or somewhere in the ACC. They'd rather go to Clemson or North Carolina. Now is busting. They'd rather go there than BC.
Right, but I mean the conference itself is appealing. They have to come up with a game plan that's going to work for the school. They haven't done it.
Competitive in the conference.
Yeah, to be honest, their baseball, the only program that I've seen that's actually kind of moving up a little bit right now, besides women's lacrosse, which women's lacrosse is incredible.
They're not moving up. They've been great.
Yeah.
Like hockey.
Right. Is baseball.
It's a decent program.
Yeah. Sal Freelit just got drafted. He was, I think, the 15th pick in the draft this year. And then they just, their other really good player, Cody Morissette, who's actually grew up not too far from where I was, got picked by the Marlins in the second round. So it's like they've had some draft picks the last couple of years.
Yeah. Andrew Saracen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Mixing in some sliders on that BP. Hey, man. I think he works for the Red Sox now.
Does he? Talk about bullpen catcher of the year.
Video analyst. So I'm like, hey man, all the power to you. That's a good gig. But
yeah,
the BC bullpen catcher.
Yeah, BC bullpen catcher of the year. So that's how reliable he was.
Oh yeah.
But, so when did you start getting into broadcasting?
Oh man, I did my first broadcast my freshman year of high school. It had always been something I was interested in for sure. And we actually, like I mentioned, real small town, small school, but we had like a pretty legit TV studio and radio studio for a school that size and a town that size. And they aired all the football and basketball games and select like women's basketball games and stuff. But they just didn't have anyone broadcasting them. And so I had gone on originally as a DJ. They would give you like little 2-hour slots, play whatever you want as long as it's clean. And I was like, hey, like, do you guys have like the equipment to do this? Cause like I would do this, to do play-by-play. And they were like, yeah, we just never have anyone who's interested. So freshman year, I just started calling basketball games and did football and basketball all 4 years. And so, I mean, limited resources. I didn't have stats or anything like that. So I had to learn how to call a game, just trying not to repeat myself too much and using only what I knew. Nothing to follow along. I think at one point I finally got a scorebook for basketball to keep track of who was scoring.
That's a tough one to keep up with. When
you're doing something else, and for sure it's tough. But I ended up getting good at that. But just thinking back on it, like my sophomore year, I was calling games. I didn't even have that. Like I don't know what I was saying. And then went to Baylor and had worked in the production company that would do. They would do all the in-stadium stuff, like a football they did all sports, but football and basketball obviously were the big ones. where they would have the cameras, they put who's on the Jumbotron, they do all the ads and stuff like that. And they would also be the camera people for like when ESPN would come to do a game, they wouldn't bring their own people, it would be us. And so I was working behind the scenes with that. And then sophomore year baseball season, we finally started a play-by-play thing. So I did baseball, a little bit of basketball, and then senior year I did all three. I got to do all the football games. So it's been a while, Dan. It's been 10 years, with the last couple not doing play-by-play, unfortunately, but a long time.
And we'll get into you getting out of college in a second. But so once you graduated high school, got into Baylor, when did you really feel like you had, I would say, a grasp for like you're comfortable on the mic, being professional? Because I gotta say, man, like, and this isn't like a knock to, and I've told you this before, this wasn't a knock towards like JD or Enrique, because they were really good broadcasters too. But I always felt like you were always like in the zone the entire time. You didn't really have, like, when we would do pregame shows or postgame shows, you weren't really fucking up a whole lot. And those guys are like, you guys are all very like, you guys all like flowed well, but everyone had their occasional screw up. But it was almost like if I wanted to count, I could probably count on one hand how many times you messed up in pregame and postgame shows. It was pretty impressive.
A lot of it was a mindset too, like, and this isn't a knock on those two guys either, because I think everyone else in the league was like it. You know, we're all trying to get a job out of it, so there's a lot of stress to it if you let it get to you. And I just had to go in with just talk, like, just do it. Like, you've done it before. Like, don't get bogged down in the stats, or sometimes even don't even get bogged down in the game. I mean, there were plenty of times where me and Enrique were just shooting the shit, and it didn't even have to be a blowout. Like, it was definitely a mindset of like, especially when we were on TV doing it, of like, the people are watching the game, or even if we're on radio, like, when something happens, we'll tell them. But like, let's just make this entertaining, keep them updated. We're not going to keep them totally in the dark. So, but you can take it too seriously, and I was just trying so hard not to. But I mean, I got comfortable on the microphone freshman year of high school. Like, I remember we had some huge playoff games that year, and I was just like, I felt so good about what I was doing. Like, so I don't, barely a time that I wasn't comfortable. I know that sounds cocky, but like, it just came so naturally, and I got better. I got better as a broadcaster, make no mistake, all the way up until the end. But I was just always comfortable, you know. I don't know whether it was just me convincing myself nobody was listening, or me just convincing myself I was good enough. I don't know, but yeah, and definitely in the Cape, it was arguably my most comfortable, because it's like, even if you mess up, like, you're going back and you're doing the same thing tomorrow. Like, it's just every day. Like, you need to spice it up for these people listening and watching, and you're doing it here, like, with guys you're friends with. It's not like, I mean, the first couple times, of course, we were strangers, but by, you know, middle of the season, you're friends with these guys. Like, just talk. Like, you all know a ton about this team and about the league and about baseball, so you can get there when you get there. But like, let's talk about something else when you can. Or like, I used to do stuff with Enrique of like, you know, this pitcher is from this hometown. Like, you know who else is from there? And like, that would spark a 10-minute conversation. Or we would just, he's big into music too, so we would just talk about music or something. So it was just kind of just trying to put my own spin on things, I guess. It's just what made it more comfortable.
Yeah, and talking, and you know, to kind of piggyback on the conversation of like competitiveness, right? So I asked you this question too, because for us being two guys in that group that were arguably I would say the two smallest schools on that team, because we had Henrique and Mary went to Northwestern. We had JD at Syracuse, you at Baylor. There's the two of us at Stonehill and Franklin Pierce, which are two small schools in any 10 conference that is like, it's not the same vibe or anything. So it's like you don't have that same status in a sense when you come in. Now, here's where it gets interesting, right? And this is the exact question and how I worded it to Ian. First day, we had that meeting at Wareham TV. Were you at all intimidated before getting into the whole broadcasting thing and just the swing of things?
Yeah, so I don't know if intimidated is the right word, because you know me, I can be a real cocky son of a bitch, like especially when it comes to broadcasting, because I think that's what I'm good at. But so you guys talk about being from small schools. I was almost in the same boat. Like I had done Baylor and Big 12 sports and stuff, but we had just started a radio station. We had like faulty equipment, this and that. And in a sense, I basically was coming from a small school compared to, Newhouse at Syracuse is the top program in the country, and Medill at Northwestern isn't very far behind. And so you'd see those two, and around the league, we'd see Arizona State and Missouri, where those are the like top four big journalism schools. And we like JD, but I don't think he'll disagree with this point. People that go to Syracuse and do that think they're God's gift to journalism. And I think probably Northwestern's almost the same way. And again, I got on well with all three of them. So I was almost in the sense of like, I don't want to sound too much like Tom Brady or something, but like I'm going to come in and be just as fucking good as these guys. Like, I know I can do this kind of thing. So I don't know if it was intimidation, but I was definitely aware of where I was in the pecking order. Like when I'm sure when Andy sees Northwestern and Syracuse, like that's almost automatic for him, which is funny because obviously Baylor far and away has the best baseball program there. Syracuse doesn't even have it. So like I knew if I hadn't gotten that word in the last summer, like, it might have been Sam Brief, who we met for Catuit, who's like one of the nicest people on the planet Earth, who's Enrique's friend at Northwestern. It might have been him getting the job. I knew that Baylor didn't have the name in that, so I knew where I was on the pecking order, but I didn't get intimidated now because I was just like, I'm gonna show these guys, like I can do it right there with them, and I think I'm better than everybody. So I was like, I can probably do it better.
Yeah, I think for me, and I told you the same thing on this one too, is like I was intimidated in the sense of like I just wanted to have a good summer and get along with people, and I didn't want there to be egos. That was the big thing for me.
Which we shockingly pretty much avoided.
Yeah, well, and you know me, I'm a no bullshit type of guy, so it's like, especially in a work setting like that. So it's like, if you're not pulling your fucking weight, man, like I'll call you out. And I did it a couple times to people, and there were a couple times it's real funny, and then there were a couple times where it's like, oh, okay. So in that sense, it was like, like I just wanted to get along with everyone, and it worked out very, very well. Did we have like our hiccups? Yeah, of course we did. I was really happy with, there wasn't like someone that just thought they were better than everyone. That's what was so great, because all we did was just, bust each other's balls, shoot the shit, make fun of people, and in a good man.
Right. Like we were just being college kids. I mean,
oh yeah,
it's just, I mean, nothing changed,
Yeah, it's like what, and it was so funny, like, because I remember, what was it, Fenway, like the Fenway Day they do for all the teams, and we got to see like how other teams interact with each other. There were some teams there, man, and I looked at them; they just looked miserable with each other.
Yeah, man, and And I was thinking that too, because like, how awful must that experience be? Because we saw it more than once of broadcast teams and interns that just hated each other, man. I'm like, again, it's 7 days a week. It's night after night after night. Like, how, man? Like, we meshed so well, the broadcast team. We all liked each other. And on top of that, the players were good. Most of them were good people. Don, the manager, was great to us, and all the people in the organization were like, I mean, Hot Wheels and Katuitt was such an asshole to his interns. Like, I just couldn't imagine working for a guy like that the whole summer. Like, it must have just been such a pain in the ass. But we loved it. I mean, and to your point about the ego, I probably had the biggest ego on the broadcast team, but it was all like funny, I was like, I wouldn't consider myself a diva. Now I'm obviously biased. You guys might have, but
actually, I was going to say this. I was going to say out of because we didn't meet Henrique until like a week or two after. Same with America too. Yeah. But I think I was probably more intimidated by JD, because I think when I went in, like, I may have said like 2 words to you. The first person I actually ever talked to there was Javik and Ian, and when we were at Wareham TV, and like I hit like Ian. If you don't get along with Ian Becerra, go look yourself, because Ian Becerra is like the nicest human being there is. And I maybe had spoke a couple words to you, and this is where it was like, because it was tough for me, because really me and he who must not be named, I like hanging out. And he's like the whole time like, oh yeah, we're gonna take over the Cape. I was like, oh, shut up. And there's just like for a little while, like everyone was getting along well and so on, like meshing, and I was in the booth the entire time. So I was just like, because I was always out on the field, so it's like I wasn't really like meshing with people just yet. And then I think I came in like pregame and I said something stupid to you, and you just started laughing. And
yeah,
I was
you
like,
tell the story, and I think I remember. I don't remember what it was, but I think I was laughing for like an obscene amount of time. Like, I think it was like a wicked long laugh, and you were like, "Dude, it wasn't that funny," and I just kept laughing about it. I don't remember what the fuck it was though.
I think it was. I said something that came about. Oh, you know what it was? Walking the dog.
Oh my God! Yes.
It was.
Can we take a minute to talk about walking the dog, please? Can we just talk about it?
Yeah, I'll bring it up. So, for anyone that's not listening, or that is not listening, wow, anyone that's listening right now, we have dating apps.
We're college kids away for the summer.
I've been single as fuck for like half a decade. All right, so female demographic low. Tinder, Bumble, farmers only.
Anything.
I'm on. I'll find any dating app possible. So I had a buddy that I lived with in college, and he showed me this method of walking the dog. And it basically is you take your cell phone and you take your 2 fingers and you are just reverse swiping right the entire time. Yeah. And it's funny to the point of like, you'll see like videos now on like TikTok and all that stuff. And just like they're using like drills and just putting an end piece on and just letting the work be done on their own.
I remember you telling me about this, because we must have had limited swipes, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And you said something like to the
sometimes you gotta bang.
You're bound to hit on somebody. Like, you're bound to hit on someone you were actually gonna like. Like, you're bound to match with someone who's actually hot.
Yeah.
Like, the odds are in your favor.
Oh yeah. And then and then if you don't, you delete them. It's just a shitty way to do it, but that's what you do.
Yeah.
But The infamous, as my infamous roommate would say, sometimes you got to just bang a 4 to appreciate a 10. You
Yeah,
know?
that was one of the slogans of the summer for
Oh
sure.
yeah, the huge slogan of the summer. I told him I went back to school and told him that. I couldn't have been more proud of you. So
And do you remember the infamous Tinder incident on on a ride to one of the games? Oh, yes.
I got a couple of those. So
So I don't know what the situation was, but it was just you and me on a drive to Orleans, which is the furthest drive in the Cape. And um, I had gone, it was on one of those apps, and someone popped up who worked with the Gatemen, was in a different department, also has the same alma mater as you. And I was like,
oh,
and I was like, and I
oops.
was like, and I was like, oh my god, dude, look who popped up. And you looked at it, like you're still driving, so you did a couple peeks over. You looked at it, like laughed, and then reached out and just swiped right for me. I was like, what the fuck, dude? And we fucking matched. Fucking matched. And I was like, no. So it just sat there forever.
And you can't delete it too, otherwise you're a complete asshole.
Oh my god, I see this person every day. Like, oh my, and you're just fucking laughing. Just like almost like I think that's the one where we tried to drink whatever the fuck we had in the back. I tried to, you were driving, you were not trying to. I tried to drink like we had like vodka or something in the back, and it was piss warm, like hot. It was like 90 degrees outside. And I was like, it was one of those, it must have been one of the days where I wasn't on the broadcast. I was just doing like the around the league scores.
Oh
And
yeah.
we just like try to rip a shot. And it was like burning down my throat. And it was like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
That's a peek inside the rides down to the games.
And if you really want to get a peek too, let's talk about one of the greatest places on a traffic circle going towards Bourne, Mass. You know where I'm going with this?
I think so. Was this a post TJ's event that you're referring to?
I'm going to the topic of TJ's. I was going to make this big dramatic buildup of how spectacular this bar that's open with a bunch of moms at 2:00 in the morning is the greatest place. Incredible bar.
Karaoke barn, yeah.
But yeah, we used to do karaoke after games, and that was our championship celebration bar too.
Yeah. They've still got the T-shirt up. Apparently, the one I'm wearing right now, the championship official locker room championship T-shirt signed by all of us.
Yeah, I think I shrunk mine in the wash, so it's a fucking belly shirt on me now.
I love this shirt, dude. It's so comfy. I have such a small like T-shirt rotation these days, and this is for sure like on it near the top. I wear it all the time.
Yeah, I'll wear it to bed, now and then if I want to, look hot in a Snapchat. Someone wants to see my fucking baby guy.
It's this crowd that has these shirts too. I don't know if you're supposed to get them. There was like 40 total. Like 35.
So they had a box of them for the broadcast or like the interns, obviously the players, the coaching staff.
I just remember just like snagging one out of somebody's hand, like somebody had a box over their arm, and I just took one. I was like, "Fuck it, man! I don't care if a player doesn't get it. I'm taking one of these."
Right. Well, Tom Crane said, I think they sent some. I took one, so I was like, I don't need one. I'm good. But what I used to do was because we had to wear those button-down polos. But I got to a couple times just wear that. I bought one of the T-shirts at a shop, and I just wore that like once in a great while too, just so I could wear like a nice T-shirt.
Yeah, you weren't on camera, so you got away.
Yeah. So I got away with it a lot, and of course, like Andy Lang's probably like, this must be a guy for Wareham Television. So he probably forgot who it was.
Yeah.
But the next, all right. So here's I think a cool part for you towards the end of the year. It was the championship game, right? So game one happens. Gatemen win.
Yeah.
We're pretty pumped up. We had to go to Chatham for game two. Wareham has swept the entire playoff series, and this game for game two, when I talk about this being like the most infamous game in Cape League history, it was incredible. This was like a battle. This was a battle game at the beginning. We ended up taking a couple run lead or whatever. And the game starts, the weather was pretty crappy, but it didn't start picking up till later on. And it was foggy out. It got foggy to the point where you couldn't see the entire field. And they ended up delaying the game and then postponing the second half of it for the next day. That was that was supposed to be your last day.
There was a lot in those 2 days there because if you remember, I mean, Cape League has to have like a drop dead last day because the players got to go back to school.
Right.
And they basically kept pushing it back. And the drop dead day was the day I had to go back to school early because I had a new job I had to lead an orientation for. And so I was like, okay, thank God, like we're not gonna have a game that day. It's gonna be all over. It might be the day before, but it's gonna be all over. But they kept moving that back to the point where the drop dead day would have been game 3, the decisive game. And I was like, shit, because that postseason we had a couple of rainouts and it kept getting moved back. And Hyannis kept their sprinklers on one night that rained out a game. Fucking idiots.
Yeah, I know, dude. I was like, I was so dumbfounded by the fact that
that was ridiculous.
Who the hell keeps on freaking sprinklers for a baseball field at night? The water bill for that must have been, whoever did that, the person that the town that had to pay the water bill for that must have been freaking so pissed.
Unbelievable. So I'm like, thank God, like we won game 1. We're gonna win it tonight. Like Chatham's mailing it in. We're gonna win it game 2. And we get there and they said there was like 7,000 people there. Now, I would say probably it was a couple thousand.
I would say at least 2,000 people.
It was packed, man. And I don't know, because you were out and about. Our broadcast booth was like a park bench and a table. And it was surrounded like 4 or 5 people deep behind us. And I was like, man, so it's this big event. Alec Manoah's on the mound, who's now in the major leagues. And yeah, I don't want to say we touched him up, but I want to say it was like 4-2 maybe. And the game was called like the 6th. And I had the flight the next morning. And I was just fucking devastated, dude. I bawled my eyes out. It was just kind of embarrassing looking back on. But like, you know, we're not part of the team. Like, we have no bearing on what happens in the game, right? But we had worked so hard and just been through this whole fucking season. And I really just wanted to be there when they won it, like so bad. Like I obviously wanted to be on the call, but like I just wanted to be there and like celebrate it. And so I am fucking devastated, man. And I went home, and I might have slept like an hour or two. It was one of those really early morning flights, like 7:30 in the morning. And I remember getting to the airport, and my flight's delayed. And I'm like, great, like fuck this. I just annoyed. And like 5 minutes after that, it's like the flight's canceled. And I'm like, well, shit, like I've never had a flight canceled before. I don't know what to do. So I call my dad. He's been on a bunch of flights, and he's like, yeah, you might have to pay something, but you'll get a voucher, whatever the fuck. Like, you'll just probably have to hang around there. There's probably be a later flight today, but they'll tell you. And I was like, okay. And I'm hanging around. I'm not getting anything. And I'm like, is there like a desk or something I need to go to? He's like, yeah, why don't you try that? I got a text, and it was like, your flight's been rescheduled for 6:50 a.m. the next day. And I'm like, shit, like I have to be at this thing later today at Baylor, and I can't get there. And like I have people waiting to pick me up and a place to stay, and I had to call them, and now I can't get home because my dad's gone to work, and like I need to find a way to get home. And through all this, like I get a way to get back home, and through all this I'm like, oh shit, I can go to the game today. And I want to say it was rescheduled for like 1 p.m. and it was
Something like
definitely
that,
like
yeah.
early afternoon, like 12 or 1. And so I get all the way back. It takes me a couple hours to get home. And now I need to get to Chatham, which from my house is like 2 hours plus. And you guys were talking about the carpool, which I was the only one who didn't drive because I had that piece of shit Camry that they warned me not to take on the highway. Like I could get to, the only way to get to Wareham from my house was all back roads. So I was like, fuck, now I got to take it all the way there. And I didn't tell anybody I was coming back. And like literally got home, grabbed my polo, threw it on, and drove out there. And got in right as the 9th inning was starting. And the Gatemen scored like 4 or 5 runs to put the game away. And got to be there and celebrate, and we partied, like we went through the whole night, man. Like I don't think I actually slept that night either. Like it was crazy. That was like the craziest 2-day span of my life probably.
Yeah.
It was so awesome to be there when that happened and to be with you guys. And yeah, we had the TJs after. We had I think the guys just like went to the beach and just like reminisced on the season. It was so awesome, man.
Yeah.
That was the best.
Yeah, I remember because I didn't find out because I like I said I was on the field. I was out and about. So when you came in for the 9th inning, like I had no idea. Everyone else like knew. I remember I saw you and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" Start freaking out, dude. You're like, "We did it, baby. We had nothing to actually do with it, but we did it."
Yeah.
That's a good time. That's awesome. Yeah, the memories for a lifetime for sure.
For sure, dude. We're coming up on the anniversary in a couple weeks.
Oh yeah.
Anniversary, but
Who do you think's gonna win this year?
dude, I have no idea. I've been watching the Gatemen here and there. I've heard Bourne is just stacked. I hope that's not the case. I hope they don't win.
I hope so too, but you never know. It's usually like from what you see, it's like if your team looks good on paper, you'll be probably winning.
It's really all about whether the players give a shit. Because I thought our team was really good that year, but I'm sure it came into effect like against Katuitt or Falmouth that once you lose a game, you're just like, fuck, man. If we lose tomorrow, I can just go home and have like a week or 2 of summer before going back to school. So you see that all the time. And I think was it Orleans that year that just fucking tanked at the end. There's one team in each division that does not get in the playoffs. And Brewster was horrible the first half of the season, like one of the worst Cape teams ever.
Yeah. Orleans had a terrible end of the year.
Lost like 12 of 13 to end the year just to miss the playoffs. Like they wanted to so bad.
Yeah, they ended up taking a kid that they picked up a kid at the end of the year that I remember. He's from the Cape, and they were like, "We're just going to pick you up like as a favor." He like lived in Orleans. I'm almost certain. Like they were that bad. Oh. And the kid I think the kid had like an infield single when we played it. It was freaking hilarious. It's like
he had no interest in winning, like at all.
I can't say I blame him. I mean, you lost 12 straight games. So like, I'd be like, yeah, packing my bags like
they were like
mid-July.
Team. Just fell apart, dude.
Yeah,
it was so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, more so than talent. But yeah, I've watched a couple of Gatemen games this year. They're not consistent. They're like right around 500, I think, and there's less teams making the playoffs this year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
New playoffs this year. I don't know why. I think it's just this year, but I think like 3 teams from each division and one gets a bye, or maybe the top 2 only get it, and there's just a conference finals and then the finals. I don't know, but
yeah, it is a little weird. What do you think of that Appalachian League, the one that the MLB is going to be running, which is basically what the Cape League is, but with
I'm
the
worried.
facility. Well, that's what I was saying too. Ian doesn't think so because of how nostalgic and premier the Cape is, but to me, it's like, if Major League Baseball can put together a league like that, where it's, travel that's fairly similar, you're playing in nice ballparks the entire time, you have the facilities, you have a nice place to stay, it's maybe not even with a host family,
Right. And
why would you go to the Cape League? It's just like,
the lore of go ahead.
It's just, it's like there's part of me that thinks it probably won't happen because scouts are so dead set there, and the Northeast in total is just gotten so competitively strong at baseball, where you're seeing so many D1 kids left and right going to that league, getting drafted in the first couple rounds the next year, or getting drafted out of high school. So I couldn't see them not going there, because you're going to get good talent one way or another. It's just going to be dependent on how that league's going to be structured and what goes there for talent. So,
yeah, I mean, the lure of the Cape for us, or like baseball fans, is all the the great players, obviously, but also all the bullshit that comes with it. The nice Cape League nights, and there's no egos, and you can just bring your own chair, that kind of shit. That's for us. The lure of the Cape for the players is the competition and the scouts, the coaches, scouts. So, if this is an MLB sanctioned thing and they get the scouts out there, yeah, that could bury the Cape. It could. But like you said, I mean, every team has a scout that's just here. They're just in the Cape area, just for the Cape.
right.
So if those guys stay around there, that's going to dictate everything.
Right.
The coaches are great because they're developing guys who are going to play in the major leagues. And if you don't have scouts to scout them, then it's going to make a huge difference. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be able to get paid at some point here, or with all the NCAA stuff happening, but it's gonna. MLB sanctioned. They can send whoever the fuck they want down there as scouts. That it worries me. It worries me a ton. I mean, we see it every year. Some of the top players in the country who don't do the Cape at all. They just do Team USA, which is great. It's an honor. I'm sure it's fun, but like, that's not nearly the recognition you get playing on the Cape and playing against the best players in the country, rather than, Cubans or Israelis or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Well,
it could happen. It could bury the Cape. I hope it doesn't. Obviously.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hope it doesn't, but I think the Cape needs to kind of progress in the sense of, like, they got to do something in terms of profit. Like, I know they do this. I know that each team has their own merchandise and so on. And they have donations and everything like that. But it's a free game to see guys that are in the league in the next couple of years in the big leagues. So, and that's something where it's like because the Futures League is like, there's a bunch of teams that are over by where I am, and the CCBL and so on. And the facilities are nicer. The talent's not to the extent that the Cape is, but it looks a little bit more appealing for some. And that's where it's like, if with this being the case for it, and this is going to be that competitive league that's going to actually match up against the Cape, we may want to start thinking about, like, you don't have to have someone spend, $80 or something for a ticket or $20. Do like a $5 ticket. General admission. You don't need a VIP box or anything like that. Just something small that's affordable to get yourself into. And then kids do it like $1 or $2.
Something to bring in some revenue for sure.
Uh,
And I think there's never not going to be an interest in the Cape for players.
right.
It's just quality of player.
Right.
Like, if 5 years down the line, this league is burying the Cape and they're getting all these guys, you could see guys from BC or Franklin Pierce or somewhere like that. And they get an invite to the Cape and they're like, man, I mean, they develop these players. Like, I'm not going to say no to the Cape. It might not be what it used to be, but you can't say no to that. Like, who knows?
Right. It'll just be a totem pole. It would be like, if that becomes the league, the Cape would be kind of like the next one where like it'll probably take the competition for the Futures, the CCBL, whatever. I think what the Long Island Baseball Collegiate Summer League, whatever the frick that's called, plays in like goddamn parks. It's like, they'll figure something out. But kind of like the last part I wanted to get into is, you and your professional career now. So recently you were working for one of the local stations in Waco.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Still am till the end of the month.
So what's your new job going to be then?
So the new job is out in West Texas. It's in Odessa doing sports.
Mm-hmm.
I'll finally be getting to do sports. I've been doing news the last almost 2 years. And I fucking hate it. I just hate news, man. It just sucks. And there's some people that I work with that really make it suck too. But yeah, so moving out west a couple hours, beginning of August, to get in some high school football stuff, but finally doing sports. So that'll be a welcome change to do full-time sports. I've been I weasel it in every now and again here where I can make it into a news story, but kind of like what Ian was talking about with his job. You kind of have to have a news angle to it. So like today is actually my day off, but I came in for a couple hours to do a story on a Waco kid who went to Baylor, track runner who's going to the Olympics. And he's the first Olympian ever from here. And it's one of his last practices before they go. So I can do that, but I can't just say, like, here's a profile on Will London. Like, I have to, I'll have to talk to his parents and talk to some of his old coaches to, like, what he means to the community and how he's given back. And so I've done a bunch like that, or like I did a series about the Negro Leagues in Central Texas. And, Jackie Robinson was stationed at Fort Hood, and the guy who invented the Negro Leagues is in our viewing area. So a lot of stuff like that. But I mean, news is just not my thing, dude. Like, no desire for it. I underestimated how long 2 years is, but this was the first job offer I got. It took a couple months, and it was Waco. I had been there for 4 years. I was comfortable with it. So yeah, excited to start the new job though, for sure.
So when you got that job though, because you said it took a couple months, were you planning on coming back up this way, or was Texas like you were going to stay in Texas?
Well, so I was living at home that summer. So I was done with my classes at Baylor in May, but I didn't graduate until August. I had to do some online classes. So I was home for the summer, just working at like a warehouse just to make some money until I found a job. So it was kind of, I wouldn't have minded staying home at that point. But Texas was definitely like the next place I was looking at. I still had a bunch of friends down here. I wasn't ready to leave it yet. So I was looking everywhere, wherever was going to get a cool job. But definitely Massachusetts and Texas were the two I was looking at the most. And so, yeah, like I said, got the job offer here. It was the first legitimate offer I got. It's shit money, but I was like, look, I'll just do news for a while, but they'll see I'm so good at sports, they'll let me do sports. And it just never really happened. So, yeah.
Yeah. How are you think you're going to like this new one? Obviously you're doing sports, so you're going to like it.
Yeah.
But Do you think it's going to be, you know, peaches and cream, or do you think it's just going to be kind of another shit show again? You're hoping not. It's going to be.
It's going to be a challenge. I'll say that. I obviously don't know a ton about this place because I've never worked there, but like I've gone out to visit them and I've kind of seen what they're about, and it seems like it'll go smoothly. It's a much smaller market, it's a much smaller station, um, but like yeah, it's kind of a shit show at the station I'm at right now, um, and not the good kind. Um, but it'll be a challenge because like Midland, Odessa, where it is the middle of fucking nowhere. Absolute goddamn nowhere. It's almost 6 hours from here, and it's still in Texas. Have you seen Friday Night Lights, the movie?
Yes.
Well, that's in Odessa. That's one of the teams I'll be covering, Permian High School.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, no shit.
So it's like literally the middle of nowhere. I don't know anybody. I'm far away from my girlfriend and all my other friends. So like I'm not psyched about that, but to do sports finally is going to get me through. Like that's going to be so awesome. And they obviously high school football is the biggest thing, but they've got minor league baseball. They've got a weird minor league hockey team that I think is independent. But it's just going to be so much fun to just be doing sports again. I mean, like that's what I need to be doing. So, and I know, and again, big head me, I think I'm going to do really, really well there. And so I'll be back at a bigger market somewhere I want to be, hopefully in no time at all. Hopefully next year.
Yeah, my so my roommate that I had, because I moved up to Portland a little over a year ago at this point, and I had one of my buddies from college living with me, and he got into the news industry too. He's a producer. He was working for our local station that was in Portland, and something about news, man, like smaller stations, it's just like it's something where it's, and I don't know this firsthand because I haven't worked for a station, and I think now securing your story and listening to what he had to go through, there's no help, little to none, shitty hours. So he was working, I mean, actually, his hours that he's having for his new job now, he'll have Tuesdays and Wednesdays off, which are like two of the shittiest days to have off. He's working like 4 a.m. to 11, which isn't bad. But he was working the night shift. So he would go in at 11, he'd be done at 8:30, and then he'd have weekends off. But it was like, he would like stay up till like, he would stay up all Friday and just rage on Friday night. And then Saturday, you know, Saturday, sleep in a little bit and do it all over again. So it's like sleep schedule was messed up. There was like no help. I mean, he got paid a decent amount, but not anything spectacular from what he said. You know, it's one of those places where it's like you're on contract, and then the moment you can get out, you get out. So there's so much turnover. It's interesting.
Yeah, and for the most part, kind of shit pay. Like my hours are Wednesday through Saturday, night side, which is 2 to 10, and like I like sleeping in, I do, but also, you know, working in the afternoon, like people who you're trying to interview, like at businesses and stuff, they want to go home too. So like instead of like when I work dayside, I could just reach out to them during the morning, be like, hey, can I come by? Whereas the working in the afternoon, like I have to set that up ahead of time. And so my whole morning is looking for stories on Facebook, scrounging through Facebook, which I fucking loathe. And like, so essentially I'm working from 10 to 10, and like so like you said, that it's so much turnover. I'm our longest tenured reporter, and I have not been there 2 years. And I've been on this shift since like last February, and I'm like, I can't even get off the weekends, let alone switch to dayside. Like it's just a fucking mess, and there's no vacation time, and I'm gonna be working shit hours in Odessa too. It's gonna be night side again, but like it will be better doing sports. Like at least I will like it, you know? And like here I'm just like, what am I doing? You know, it's 10 o'clock and I'm just barely leaving the station. And I did a story about fucking free dumpsters in Temple. Like, what the fuck am I doing? I ask myself that like 3 or 4 times a week. Like, what am I doing? So yeah, I mean, it will still be shit hours and shit pay, but at least I'll be liking it, man. And then we can work from there. Then we work towards something with better hours, better pay that I also like doing, but I have experience in sports. So that's why I just need to cut my teeth a little bit.
Right. Yeah, I get that for sure. So, all right, last question I got for you. I'll let you go.
Yeah.
We've been riffing for a while, which is great because it's been a while and content's getting good. But
didn't get to.
Oh yeah, we haven't even. To me, it's like we could like get real deep into the conversation, but then we'd be here till like 10 o'clock. But for you, I'm trying to get back onto this conversation again with a lot of my guests. Is what would be kind of your biggest piece of advice in the sense of someone that's just getting out of college, that's looking to get into the job market for, say, media and so on? Because, I'm on a whole different spectrum from what you are, from what Ian is, and so on. It's like I got out of school and I wasn't looking to be in front of the camera. I wasn't looking to record, do writing. I wanted to create content. I wanted to be a video guy. And that job market's tough, man. It is. Even if you have the greatest job, greatest resume, like the thing that like always got me was, 5 years of experience here, 6 years of experience here for an entry-level job. And it's like, well, it's not really an entry-level job. So what would you say is like your piece of advice then that's the
Well, I'll give 2 bits, and one of them is going to sound really contradictory, but hear me through. So it would be, the first part of the first one would be, if you can wait on one, wait on one. Like, I know everyone's situation is different. I was lucky enough to have a couple months where I could live at home rent-free and build up my money again because I was dead fucking broke when I left college. But we were pretty close to, like, you had to start paying rent to live here. So I knew I was going to have to take a job soon. But if you can wait on one, do it, because I did have a job offer or two that like wasn't legit in my mind, and I just knew I couldn't do it. So if you know like you can't do it, don't be afraid to say no to that. Like, don't just jump into something because you think it's going to benefit you down the line. Like, if you see like, hey, it's a big opportunity, I can live with this for a while, that's a different story. Like, that's how I'm kind of viewing Odessa. I don't want to go out there, but I can live with it, and I'm going to do great work there, and I'm going to be gone before we know it. And but I got a job at a newspaper, or I got offered a job at a newspaper out of college, and I was like, no, I can't do this. Like, so don't be afraid for that. But also, kind of on the same place where I was going with the Odessa thing, is just, you're not going to be totally comfortable. Like, don't be afraid to like relocate or take something on, especially in media, like Ian was talking about too. It's really tough. Unlike people, my friends who did business and say, oh, well, I'm from Dallas, I'm going to get a job in Dallas. You can't say that when you're in media and you want to stick in media. But then again, that comes with, if you know you can't do it, don't do it. But you are going to have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, and you're going to suck for a while. Like, that's just how it's going to be. So also don't be afraid to relocate and suck at your job for a little bit. And the other thing, you don't necessarily have to do, but looking back, I wish I had done a little bit more. Perk yourself up and kiss some ass. Heard it your whole life of, it's not about what you know, it's who you know. That is dead fucking true. There's so many people I see doing jobs that are better than mine that I know I could do better than them at. And we saw it a bunch in the Cape. There's a lot of ass kissing going on in the Cape. And I made sure I didn't do it because it's just not who I am. But I could have done it a little bit more. And I probably could have had a better job coming out of it. But I mean, the Cape environment was so great in terms of everybody from the interns to the players to the assistant coaches to a certain extent. We're all around the same age and we're all working to get somewhere. So it was competitive in that sense, but everyone was holding each other accountable. And that's not always the case in the working world. I've definitely noticed that at my station. Some people can afford to be complacent, but those ones who kiss the ass, they're the ones who get out faster. Now, you still got to be good. Like you do. You still got to know what you're doing and you still got to be willing to work. But if you kiss a little ass, it's going to make it easier. Don't obviously, there's a fine line, Dan, and I'm sure you know. You can't go too far or else you'll be branded as the kiss ass and no one will care. But,
Yeah.
but you just got to watch.
You can't chug. You can't just you can't milk people.
Right.
That's the big thing. Yeah, no,
Treat the ass like a martini. Like if you chug
Yeah.
a martini, you're throwing up, dude. But if you sip it, you're gonna have a good experience.
yeah. There's a difference between like hardcore, gerbil hamstering a bottle of vodka and sipping on some nice tequila, and you got to know the fine line between the two of them. And if you don't, well, yeah, you will be labeled as, hey, why don't you just suck some dick?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a tough thing. I'm kind of the same way too. Where it's like, I don't really particularly like kissing ass either because you get labeled that way, and it's like sometimes you get put in a situation too where you get like this fantastic job and you're really not mentally prepared for it just yet. So,
and for the most part, you'll realize who you need to kiss ass to. Like if you know someone that's impressive and you're like, this person's really gonna help me, absolutely, dude. Ask for their number, give them your card, kiss some ass. Like there's one or two people whom I know, I wouldn't say I know them terribly well, but they're big up in sports media. And so I'm like, hey, can I get your number? Like, could we talk? Could I send you? And again, don't push. Don't be like, hey, can you get me this job? Can you put in a good word for me? But be like, hey, I noticed this is open. You might know someone there. What if I send you my reel and you critique it? Or maybe what are they looking for? Something like that. And that'll kind of help you get your foot in the door, I think.
Right. Yeah. But I would say though, for you in a sense, like, yeah, you did something where you hated it, but I mean, you had some camera time, so it's like there's some cons to it.
Good work always plays.
Yeah.
Good work always plays. That will always get you where you need to be eventually. I do definitely believe in that.
And you must have been kind of like a local famous guy in a sense then too, so it couldn't have been too bad. Yeah, you can't tell me you didn't get asked to take a couple photos here and there. If you don't, you're lying out of your freaking teeth.
I mean,
yeah. Come on, man.
I mean, look, I got some drinks paid for sure. I had my fair share of freebies. But
that's awesome.
I don't know if I get noticed on the street too much anymore.
They're probably like, hey, you do another one of those stories on Elvis's childhood home, and we'll get you anything you want in the town of Waco.
It's mostly old people. It is mostly old people.
And that's what I kind of assumed. It's like I'm getting my news from Barstool Sports.
Right, which I can't blame them. I do not blame them.
I want something that's funny. But anyways, all right, we'll wrap it up here. I want to thank everyone again for tuning in and listening to another episode of Reckless Boy. Oh, wow. That's been a long day. Reckless Pros with your boy, Dan Longton. Cam, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. It's been a while.
Anytime, man.
At some point in time, the next time you come up, or I somehow make an extravagant visit down to Texas, we've got to link up at some point. And I told you the same thing when I haven't hit him up recently. But we gotta get a squad back together, man.
For sure, dude.
Especially the trio. All right, we're out of here.
Keep leak fact checking. Just let me know.
All right, man. Sounds good. Thanks for coming on. Everyone, we're out. Take care.